And we're live, but I forgot to do the intro, so here's the intro.
Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is here. Welcome back for some more SPTV. Got you right there. Oh, where's the SPTV? There it is. Welcome back for some more SPTV. We got some crazy stuff to talk about today. This is some stuff that two more Scientologists, Clearwater-based Scientologists. I mean, guys, Grant Cardone and David Gentile aren't the only Scientologists ripping people off out there. What I'm going to share with you, as I was sort of putting all this information together and trying to connect all the dots, it seemed like even the Tampa Bay Times, who has reported on this, were not aware that the women we're about to talk about were Scientologists. But as I was reviewing it a second time, it seems like they are aware. It would be impossible for them not to be aware. And yet they chose not to report that fact. And anyway, it's very strange, but we're going to dig into this and I'm going to show you what the heck I'm talking about here. And guys, I will, before I wrap up the video, I'll address any super chats. But otherwise, here we go. So check this out. A woman, this was literally just a few days ago. So this is a month ago, but then the second article I'm going to show you is just a few days ago. So 1 month ago, a woman tried to sell a Clearwater home. It wasn't hers to sell. Clearwater police said Olga Botello collected a down payment for a mobile home that she didn't have the authority to sell. This is 75-year-old Olga Scientologist Olga Botello. Clearwater police, here I'll highlight it. Clearwater police have arrested a woman, detectives said, stole thousands of dollars from a man by drafting paperwork to sell him a mobile home she didn't have the legal authority to sell. Olga Botello, also known as Olga Griffin, was arrested Wednesday on a charge of scheme to defraud. Botello was released Thursday from the Pinellas County Jail on $5,000 bail. They give some details. We're not going to read every word of this thing. Okay, the last paragraph here. Clearwater police believe there may be other victims and have asked members of the public to contact them with additional info. Okay, so update to like 3 or 4 days ago. So March 14th. What is today, guys? It's the 19th. I know I grew up in a cult, but even I know that was 5 days ago. Largo woman accused of trying to sell home she didn't own faces new charges. Okay, so the police's request for additional information were successful. The request was successful. Olga may have targeted at least 9 people in real estate fraud cases. Well, hold on tight, folks, because what Olga has actually done gets much more interesting than fraudulently selling a handful of mobile homes. Or attempting to. But anyway, we'll take it one step at a time here. A Largo woman was arrested last month, accused of trying to sell a mobile home she didn't own. She may have been running similar scams, targeting at least 5 other people, according to court records. Olga Botello is facing 3 new grand theft charges and 3 additional scheme to defraud charges since her initial arrest on February 22nd. Court records also show she was arrested in 2019. After investigators said she collected thousands of dollars from investors to flip homes and used a portion of the money for other purposes, including $200,000 in donations to a nonprofit. Spoiler alert, that nonprofit was the Church of Scientology. For the Tampa Bay Times to know that piece of the story, they had to know that it was Scientology. For them to know it was Scientology, they have to know that Olga is also known as Olga Favreau Botello. And if they knew she was known as Olga Favreau, then they would know that in 2018, the Tampa Bay Times reported on Olga Favreau and specifically named the Church of Scientology. So let's take a look. This is 2018. She donated nearly $3,000 to the Church of Scientology, which doesn't want it. January 2018. On her Cozy Cottages website, Olga Favreau called herself one of the leading authorities on real estate in Tampa Bay. I don't want to read every word of this. The pitch proved enticing. Investors from New York, California, and Florida gave Favreau's Clearwater-based firm hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy, rehab, and sell homes at a profit. But they say they never got their money back. In the meantime, Favreau donated $278,158 $278,158 to the Church of Scientology. Now, guys, I'm going to take this one step at a time, but in order to take one step forward, we have to take one step backwards. In this article here that I'm reading from right now, the one from 5 years ago, they never show a photo of Olga, and they only used her one last name, Favreau, even though it's actually her middle name. Nowhere in the reporting from last month or in this month do the reporters connect the dots between Olga Favreau and Olga Botelho and Olga Griffin. Nor do they mention that this nonprofit is the Church of Scientology. Why in the world would they leave that part of the reporting out? It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. Also, as far as taking one step back, if we go back to this article from, just a few days ago, it goes on to say, Botelho's business partner, 71-year-old Patricia Marks, another Scientologist, you guys, was also accused of trying to fraudulently sell a mobile home in 2019, though those charges were dismissed through a pretrial intervention program. More recently, Marks was arrested after police say she threatened a woman who was a potential witness in one of Botelho's fraud cases. I mean, these guys are so ridiculous, they might as well be private investigators for Scientology. Okay. So, by the way, real quick, for Patricia Marks, you can see here a whole bunch of the documentation of Patricia Marks's involvement in Scientology as recently as 2017. You can see that she has, I know a lot of you guys don't know what these courses mean, but this shows an extensive involvement in Scientology, the false purpose, doing OT preparations right here. Looks like she finished it twice, like any good Scientologist. It shows that she either attested to the state of clear or she attested to NED case completion and did the alternate route to clear. The fact that she did the advanced solo auditors course also indicates that she either attested to clear or did the alternate route to clear. It's interesting that the last services we see for Patricia is in 2017, which is right around the time that Olga got busted for running a Ponzi scheme. So guys, let's go back to, now let's take one step forward again. Let's go back to the original reporting in 2018, okay? So Olga gets busted for sort of running this Ponzi scheme and donating $278,000 to Scientology, okay? Did Favreau use her investors' funds to make those donations to Scientology? The investors didn't allege that directly, but in an unusual case, Scientology says it doesn't want the money because of concerns it might have been ill-gotten and misappropriated. The church, which has its spiritual headquarters in Clearwater, has put the $278,000 in escrow and filed a lawsuit in Pinellas County Circuit Court asking to be relieved from any further responsibility for the funds while Favreau and the investors battle it out amongst themselves over who is legally entitled to it. In a moment here, I'm going to give you guys the real story for why Scientology gave up that money so easily. Okay, we're going to go forward a little bit in this suit. Oh my God. I mean, look, you guys, under their agreement, Cozy Cottages, this was Olga Favreau's company. Under the agreement, Cozy Cottages was to pay this investor, McDonald, 19.2% interest on the loan, which was to be paid back in full within the year. Guys, if it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true, okay? All right. It is believed that the defendants did not invest in real estate at all, but instead used the funds for personal gain. Yeah, well, that's not really a shocker here. Okay, let's see. Someone in this article, we're not going to go through all the details here. Let's go fast forward. Scientology says that Favreau made various donations totaling $278,000 to the Church of Scientology Flag Service Organization and to a church-related trust between 2011 and 2016. So Scientology themselves have come forward and given all the confirmation needed that Olga was a very dedicated Scientologist. Quote, upon information and belief, Olga Favreau obtained the donated money from personal investors in response. Sorry, guys, this is getting a little clumsy here. Once the church became aware of Miss Favreau's actions and the fact that funds she had donated to the church may have been misappropriated by her, the church took the responsible action and asked the court to determine the appropriate distribution of those funds. Because there's no way to determine which, if any, other donations may have been ill-gotten, the church has turned over all donations from Miss Favreau and decided to take this step so that anyone harmed by Ms. Favreau's actions could be recompensed fairly through the court. Well, that's a bullshit story from Scientology for why they gave that money back. And the real story was given over at Mike Rinder's blog. Mike Rinder wrote a blog about this 5 years ago, back when the initial reporting occurred. Scientology gives money back? And he quotes from the article, and Mike himself comments. He goes, first, I guess we went with the black highlighting here instead of the yellow. First, they absolutely want the money, and if they could keep it, they would. Giving the money back certainly appears to be the right thing to do, but that's not what motivates Scientology to do anything. Their motivation is exclusively what is the right thing to do for them. They had no problem taking nearly $300K from a 70-year-old woman, even though it was more than she could afford. Par for the course with Scientology, taking anything and everything they can get from anyone unfortunate enough to sit in front of a reg. A reg is a Scientology registrar. That's the fundraiser responsible for getting as much money from Scientologists as possible. Okay, Mike goes, the interesting thing about this is that Scientology is giving money back at all. Scientology fights like a cornered rat in court to proclaim that they have no obligation to return any money given by anyone, no matter if the person was tricked into giving them money or gave the money that was not in their best interest, put them into debt, forced them to sell their home, spend their kids' college fund, IRA, etc. So why the sudden shift? The answer is simple. The law does not protect them from receiving ill-gotten monies. Scientology has returned money in the past in these circumstances or where bankruptcy courts have been involved. In these circumstances, they cannot hide behind the First Amendment, so they, quote unquote, voluntarily return it and make self-serving statements to try and make themselves look good. They did challenge being forced to disgorge funds by bankruptcy courts, but that did not last long before they realized they were going to lose every time. By the way, in the comments section of this blog, which I'm about to read, in the comments, a reader who knows Olga personally gives the real reason why Scientology gave up this money. I just wanted you to get Mike's comments on this first, and then I'm going to jump to the comments real quick. The hypocrisy is clear. If Scientology itself takes money from people using fraud, in other words, if Scientology is the ones who engage in misappropriating or generating ill-gotten gains, they claim they're not responsible and refuse to return the money because it is a donation and nobody has a right to get their money back. And they have gotten away with this for years. But if someone gives them money that may have been misappropriated or ill-gotten, they return it with shocked indignation if it becomes subject to legal proceedings. They do not give those ill-gotten gain, those misappropriated funds back if there is no flap, even if they find out it was drug money. Okay, so Mike finishes up here. What is so remarkable about this is that they try to make themselves appear ethical, even noble, by returning the money, when the truth is that only when they know they cannot possibly win in court do they ever give money back. Everyone else can go pound sand, no matter how many lies they told or false promises they offered to persuade the person to hand over their money, including promising them and the IRS, if they were dissatisfied, their money would be returned. Okay, so that's all interesting. That's very good to know. What's even more interesting is the comment that I'm about to read for you guys from Chris Baronet. Check this out, guys. This is absolutely fantastic. Okay. I met Olga Favreau at the Sandcastle 20 years ago. Guys, the Sandcastle is the building in Clearwater where Scientology delivers the OT levels. It also has a restaurant in it. Okay, I met Olga Favreau at the Sandcastle 20 years ago. She told me she was a real estate investor. I walked away thinking anybody that would give that woman money to invest has to be a complete idiot. 4 years ago, a friend that worked for Olga was at my house when he told me that Olga had just given Flag $400K. I laughed and said, who did she steal it from? My friend got pissed at my N theta comment and left. N theta is a Scientology word that really does just mean kind of negative stuff. I never saw that friend again. Okay. Next highlight. 4 months ago, another friend stopped by my house. He was Olga's ex-boyfriend, and ex-business partner. He told me that Olga had been running a Ponzi scheme for the past 4 years. Scientology got a lot more money from Olga than $280K, you guys. She has stolen about $1 million from Scientologists and non-Scientologists, including himself, the ex-boyfriend. One of the investors, who was a non-Scientologist, had taken Olga to court. The judge, after looking at the data, said to Olga, so basically, Miss Favreau, you've been running a Ponzi scheme and giving the money to the Church of Scientology. The judge then forwarded the data over to the state's attorney. My friend, who is still a devoted Scientologist, then ran back and gave all of this information to Flag, and has been reporting back to the Office of Special Affairs ever since on this cycle. On the cycle is a Scientology phrase that just means, about this circumstance. That is why Flag returned the money, not because of their high ethical standards, like the Tampa Bay Times made it appear. Now, to be fair, it was Scientology who made it appear that way. The Tampa Bay Times was just publishing Scientology's letter. So again, that speaks exactly to what Mike had said in this blog post, which is Scientology only ever gives back any of this money when the matter has been brought to the attention of the courts or the legal system, and Scientology knows they have no chance of winning on the issue. Only then do they give the money back. Okay, so Mike follows up saying, thanks for the additional info, Chris. No big surprise. The last thing they want is to give the state's attorney or a court good reason to dig around into their finances. Okay, so I'll go back here. That is what this all comes down to. Anything that would give the government, the courts, attorneys, any justification to dig into the finances of Scientology is something that Scientology will give up any amount of money to resolve the issue. This is why Scientology reacted so swiftly, thoroughly, and strongly to what has become popularly known as the Chase Wave, the period from about 2014 to 2019, where pretty much every Scientology org in the world was committing rampant credit card fraud, identity theft, unauthorized credit card transactions. In LA alone, not even greater LA, but just what they call PAC, or L. Ron Hubbard Way, there is there's only 3 Scientology organizations on L. Ron Hubbard Way. And in a period of 4 to 5 years, those organizations had racked up well over $100 million in fraudulent credit card charges. And in fact, I'm going to go a little bit off into the weeds here. There were 2 Sea Org members, one named Ty Webb, who worked directly for David Miscavige, and one named Jason Hemphill, who essentially worked directly for Ty Webb. These 2 individuals were directly responsible not only for perpetuating the credit card fraud in the LA area, but for exporting it to all the organizations in the world. They were actively blocking staff members from below their level from reporting about what was going on to anybody above their level. By the way, the only people pretty much above their level was David Miscavige. Now, David Miscavige should have known and did know that something was going on, but he didn't know the details really. And what was happening is that in the LA area, this credit card fraud was resulting in lawsuits. And those lawsuits were hitting the desk of Rick Moxon, Scientology's in-house attorney. Rick Moxon knew that it was going to be his ass on the line with Miscavige when Miscavige found out about these lawsuits. And he knew that something was going on over on L. Ron Hubbard Way that was being actively suppressed. The information about it was being actively suppressed. So Rick Moxon, in an amazing cover your ass move, walked into Los Angeles org with a tape recorder one Thursday morning and sat down in the registrar's office and interrogated the registrars as to what the hell they were doing that was resulting in these lawsuits. Rick Moxon then sent that tape directly to David Miscavige, bypassing Jason Hemphill, bypassing Ty Webb. That is how Miscavige actually found out that what Jason Hemphill and Ty Webb were doing was resulting in lawsuits that he didn't know about. Like, Miscavige knew that something was going on, but he didn't know that it was creating these flaps, these legal flaps. That then resulted in a massive investigation that then uncovered that what Jason and Ty had been doing in LA was actually happening in every org in the world, because Jason and Ty had exported it to every org in the world. In Los Angeles, I keep calling it PAC because that's what we know it as, but on L. Ron Hubbard Way, from the organizations on L. Ron Hubbard Way alone, Scientology refunded people over $8 million. Cut checks, gave people back $8 million. That doesn't mean that's everyone's money. No. That's just the money they actually paid back to people to settle claims. Some of these were preemptive claims, like they were giving money back to Scientologists so that they could afford to pay off their credit cards, so that those credit cards wouldn't go to collections, so that those collections efforts wouldn't result in investigations that would lead back to Scientology. Do you see this? In fact, one of the reasons the money that they paid back was so much less than the money that was made in the first place is because almost all of these people had already gone to collections. Now, you guys know what happens. You go to collections, so you can settle this debt for a lot less than was originally owed. So Scientology stepped in and in most cases were simply giving the Scientologists the amount of money that they needed to settle the collections activity so that it wouldn't then carry on and proceed into investigations that would result into looking into the finances at the Scientology organizations and actually clawing back money. Miscavige said that what happened, all the credit card fraud between 2014 and 2019 posed the largest single threat to Scientology in its history. The largest single financial threat to Scientology in its history. And I think by the way, the government hasn't actually dug into all of that credit card fraud yet, or at least they haven't done anything about it yet. But when Miscavige says that kind of financial fraud poses the greatest threat to Scientology in its history, he's right. Because that's the kind of stuff that you cannot hide. You cannot hide behind the shield of religious protection when you're talking about identity theft, credit card fraud, wire fraud to the tunes of tens, if not worldwide, hundreds of millions of dollars. That's the black and white stuff that the government loves litigating, because that evidence is easy to get. Those financial records exist. You can't hide those. You can't bury those. Okay, so that's when that just goes back to this comment that Mike Rinder made on the blog. No big surprise. The last thing they want is to give the state's attorney or a court good reason to dig around in their finances. So I'll wrap this up before I do the super chats by saying, any of you out there who have more information about Olga that you can pass on to me, please send it to me at growingupinscientology@gmail.com. I'm going to do some follow-up stuff on Olga once I get more evidence, more stories, more documentation of just how extensive her fraud was. Also, for those of you out there in the Scientology bubble, I'd really want to know, is Olga officially declared a suppressive person? The fact that Olga is still kicking around in the Clearwater area at all pretty much shocks me. In this, let me share this screen again here with you guys. In here, Chris does say, oh, it's further down, and I don't want to search for it. Chris does say further down in the comments that Olga has been dead filed. That's not the same thing as being declared a suppressive person. Dead filed means no one's supposed to call you or send you mail. It doesn't mean everyone has to disconnect from you. The fact that Olga has another Scientologist, Patricia Marks, working with her in her illegal activities here, also incredible. I suspect these two people have not been officially declared. And if that is the case, I suspect it's because Patricia and Olga have a lot of dirt on a lot of other Scientologists that they could go running to the authorities with to cut a deal if Scientology were to drop the ultimate hammer on them, which is declare an expulsion. I'm completely speculating here. I could be wrong. Maybe they are declared and expelled. By the way, here's a little tip or piece of advice. For all you Scientologists out there that are actively committing these financial crimes, because there's so many of you, you guys are filthy. You might want to consider proactively turning yourself in and asking for some sort of deal or immunity to, roll over, turn state's evidence and testify to the ways in which Scientology registrars are enabling or encouraging this type of fraud, as long as the donations keep rolling into Scientology. I promise you, the authorities care more about taking down Scientology than they care about taking you down. So that's just a piece of advice from someone who's not an attorney or doesn't work in law enforcement. But, you too can get honest and straight and help take down Scientology, help end the broad, widespread systemic abuse that Scientology is committing on people, because they're doing more harm to people than you're doing. And I don't know, just a piece of advice. So let's see. I've already asked. I want people to send me as much information about Olga as they can. Okay, yeah. If you're either a Scientologist, an under the radar Scientologist, a former Scientologist, if you're one of the people who got ripped off by Olga, I'd love to hear about that as well. If anyone has specific knowledge that Scientology got a hell of a lot more money from Olga than the $268,000, because here's the thing, guys. That's just like the statement from Scientology was very specific. They said donations to the Church of Scientology flag service organization and some trusts. There's some wiggle room there. I suspect there's many other ways to donate money to Scientology. Scientology very selectively and conveniently decided which of its monies they were going to count. Anyway, any of you out there who's got any more information about that, please send it my way. And I think that's all I wanted to, those were all my special requests. Okay, let me jump up and get some of these super chats, guys, and then we'll call this one a wrap. I definitely have one other video I'm going to do today, so stay tuned for that. All right, let's see. This is a super sticker. Thank you, Jill Davidson, for this super sticker. Okay, I do see one here. Jacob Harkey. Would Scientologists be interrogated or reprimanded for paying thousands of dollars to bail another Scientologist out from jail? Oh, no, you would never be reprimanded for bailing someone out of jail. Yeah, there's nothing. I can't think of any reason why they would want to leave a Scientologist in jail. It's not like bailing them out. It's not like some friend bailing them out is what's going to tip anybody off that one or both of these people are Scientologists. So I wouldn't expect that to be a problem. Okay, Seeker 0628. With Scientology, it's one step forward and 50 steps back. Thank you for doing your part in trying to take down this cult. Well, thank you very much, Seeker. I appreciate that. Okay. Jay Addison and R. Steele. Hey there, Aaron. Is the state of clear where you're supposed to see through walls and read people's minds? I'm a bit confused on this point. I think BFW, that's blown for good, that's Mark Headley, said they don't offer this anymore. So they're really L. Ron Hubbard, just throughout all of the talking and writing they did about Scientology, just sort of always implied that anybody who was working their way up the bridge would get these abilities. But there is no particular level where you are promised any particular paranormal ability. I want to make that, even at the state of clear, there's nowhere where it says, once you attest to the state of clear, you'll be able to speak telepathically with people. It just doesn't say that anywhere. As far as seeing through walls, Scientologists believe that eventually you're supposed to get the ability to causatively go in and out of your body as a spirit as well. In other words, just imagine having an out-of-body experience, but imagine it being causative, something you could do on purpose, and that you had full. So a Scientologist, the phrase they use is fully and stably exterior at will with full perceptions. And literally that would just mean that you could shoot out of your body and go over to the other side, other side of the house and see and hear exactly what's going on as if you were there, as if you were just standing there as a ghost or something. Scientologists really do believe that they're supposed to be able to do that, and many of them pretend that they can. But even L. Ron Hubbard demonstrably couldn't. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had to bug government offices. he could just exteriorize and go to the government offices and eavesdrop. You know what I'm saying? So I guess what I'm trying to tell you here is that there is no particular level where people expect to accomplish these things you're talking about here. It's just sort of generally alluded to that any Scientologist that's in good case shape should be able to do these things. People pretend to be able to do them, and none of them can. So I hope that answers your question. It's a good question. I appreciate that one. And thank you for the super chat as well. Okay, let's see. Ruth W. Aaron, from a previous interview, KC, Kathy Sullivan, was she married to Dan Sullivan? Small world. I know about him. Nicest thing I can say on him. Ruth, I have known Kathy Sullivan Otto since I was 13 years old. And yet I have never known who Kathy was married to. I have never met Kathy's husband that I can remember. So I've never heard of David Sullivan. I've never met David Sullivan. But if David Sullivan is a Kansas City-based Scientologist, then maybe that's the right guy. I just don't know. Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate it. Edna Lead. Thank you for the super sticker, Edna. Okay, I see Devin, Laura. Devin, always good to see you here. OMG, Aaron, I've been fighting with the Twitter bots since yesterday. Have you seen the awful photoshopped pictures of Leah? It's absolutely disgusting. You know, are you talking about the one where she's wearing a sweater and they photoshopped a picture of, honestly, I can't even tell who the picture is. Like, you'd think it was Leah and Paul Haggis, but that doesn't look like Leah, and that's definitely not Paul Haggis. I think I know the tweet that you're talking about. The one I saw was absolutely disgusting. I can't even believe they would put something like that on the internet. Fighting with the Twitter bots is fun, and if you enjoy doing it, please continue doing it. It's really just well, it's fun. But it's one of the reasons those Twitter bots are there, though, is to sort of wrap you up and get you spending your time arguing with them. I'm not saying don't do it. It can be a lot of fun, but realize that's kind of what they want you to do. It really is kind of what they want you to do, but that's okay. It's still fun. I guess what I'm saying is that's why I don't spend time fighting with them. But yeah, I have seen those tweets. And look, Scientology has been going absolutely batshit crazy. Because of not just my videos, but Mike Rinder's videos, Mark and Claire's videos. They've really upped their game lately. They've updated my entire website. They're publishing new videos, and I'm going to be doing videos about those videos. In fact, that's one of the videos I've got coming later today. So yeah, thank you, Devin. Again, always good to see you here in the chat. Matrix Tech Solutions, a frequent flyer on SPTV. Thank you for the super sticker. Always good to see you, Matrix Tech Solutions. One of the coolest names in the chat. Okay, F. Shopes, what happened to Quentin Hubbard? And good to see you. Mark Headley and Mike Rinder. Well, Mike Rinder is the best person to ask about Quentin. I'm going to totally butcher the story. Hubbard had like 5 kids. I even get it wrong when I talk about how many kids Hubbard had. I didn't know any of them. Mike Rinder knew all of them. Like, is Quentin the one who's an artist and still alive, or is he the one who unalived himself? I honestly don't remember. So I'm going to leave that one to Mike. And ask us that question tomorrow on the Mondays with Mark and Mike. Thank you, F. Shopes. Always good to see you in here as well. Okay, we got another one from Jay Addison and R. Steele. One other question. Do you think Scientology creates sociopaths, psychopaths, extreme narcissists, etc.? I watched Broken Brothers and got that impression. So I have an unqualified, non-expert opinion on this. But I'll give you my opinion anyway. I don't believe it creates those things. I believe it appeals to those characteristics in people when they are pre-existing. But that's just my opinion. So is it possible to create a sociopath and a psychopath? I don't know. I suspect it may not be possible. I suspect these things are inherent and essentially genetic. And that's my opinion. You're going to get so many different opinions on that. And people's opinions on that are probably worth about as much as you paid for them. I guess you did pay me $5 for that opinion. So that opinion is worth precisely $5. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay. Rob Parham. Rob Parham. You were wondering the other night about who owns the unit Marion is selling. It's Mike Moiseb. Looking forward to your investigation into Skyview. Okay, so for the viewers, Marion, that is Marion Henry. Actually, she got married, so she's got a different last name now. Marion is one of Tom Cruise's 3 sisters. She's a realtor here in Clearwater. She is the listing agent for one of the condos in Tom Cruise's apartment building in downtown Clearwater called Skyview. I was surprised that any of the units in Tom's building, because there's not that many units, guys. It's not a giant building. I was surprised that any of the units in Tom Cruise's condo building would actually hit the open market, much less with a listing agent as Tom Cruise's sister. You would think that Tom would make it clear to Moises Agami. Moises Agami is the Scientologist who owns the entire building. If I were Tom Cruise, I would tell Moises, any condos that come up for sale in this building, I get first dibs. Anyway, the whole thing was very strange. Now I'll look into who is Mike Moiseb and why. It's not that I can't understand why somebody would want to sell their unit. I just can't understand why they would ever put that unit into that multiple listing system. That's insane. I don't think you'd want to advertise that those units are, you know, churning, changing hands, turning over. Anyway, thanks, Rob. I'll try to dig into that. To be honest, I'm much more likely to ask you internet sleuths out there to send me some information about Mike Moiseb, and let's figure out who he is and where he's going. Maybe he's getting declared by Scientology and he's not allowed to live in Tom's building anymore. Yeah, maybe Mike's just in trouble with Scientology and they're making him sell his unit. But again, you'd think Tom Cruise would just buy the damn thing. Why wouldn't Tom Cruise own every condo in that building? I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. Okay. LRH, thank you. LRH, that's actually really funny. Is that your real name or did you make a name that just happens to sound exactly like LRH? Either way, thank you for the super sticker. Okay, Scott Davidson. If Scientology is concerned regarding exposure of financials, does that mean people on the SOR trusts could take a few million and bounce? You must mean Sea Org reserves. Flap worse than the theft. Does that mean that people on the Sea Org reserve trusts could take a few million and bounce? Would the flap be worse than the theft? Scott, I don't think the way those accounts and trusts are set up would give anybody other than David Miscavige to authorize a disbursement or transfer of funds from those accounts. That is my opinion. That would be a good thing for us to discuss with Mike Rinda on tomorrow's Mondays with Mike and Mark. Thank you, Scott, but that is my opinion. All right, let's see. What do we have here? Penko. Hi, did you see the front page of Globe Supermarket Tabloid? Travolta feuding with TC over something. Well, is the Globe Tabloid something that's in Florida grocery stores? Because that doesn't ring a bell. I don't remember seeing Globe. We got the National Enquirer. We got some stuff. I don't remember seeing Globe. Anyway, I don't put any, I don't give any credence to anything in the tabloids about Tom and John. Yeah, no reason to believe any of that. Nobody in those camps would be talking to the press is what it comes down to. You realize only Scientologists work for those two. And all the staff members who work for those guys are sec checked by Scientology regularly. The juice is not worth the squeeze. If you're working for one of those guys, you ain't talking to the media. You ain't talking to the media. Hell no. All right, everybody, that's what we got on this. Guys, I keep getting comments from people saying, hey, just wanted you to know I'm a longtime subscriber and I just looked and somehow YouTube unsubscribed me from your channel. So just a reminder, double check your subscription status. Make sure you're subscribed. If you want to get a notification when I go live, hit that notification bell. And I'm going to do another live stream shortly reacting to the video that my sister-in-law recorded for Scientology and they published it on my website. So stay tuned for that, guys. All right. Thank you, everyone, for hanging in there with me until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click